Earnestly podcast. It's Steve Bortstein after, I'm going to say 3.5 years.
Has it been that long?
I think, yeah. I think
it was right after the layoffs. It was right after the iHeart layoffs.
After the layoffs, I'm not mistaken, right at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah, it was because I remember because we made predictions as to when things were going to start coming back to normal.
Right. This was actually,
I would say we were both wrong.
March 2020, 2020,
yes.
2020.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you and I, we went over the idea of when things would start to come back to normal. I said Labor Day. And I think you said probably around the same time, maybe a little bit later. And I would argue that nothing ended up being normal. Nothing.
We were dead wrong on that one. I remember. So, in fact, a couple of topics we were talking about at that time. Russell Wilson, where would he go? Is he going to leave Seattle? And you predicted he would leave Seattle soon. And a year later, he was gone.
And hasn't that worked out well?
Yeah. Kobe Bryant just passed away. Like
Kobe Bryant had just passed.
After, right. They were talking about the logo and all that. So yeah. And again, another fumble by almost. Oh, never mind. I have Vikings Eagles game here on the background, so don't mind me.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
The Vikings are so bad this year. They're so bad. But yeah, dude, 3.5 years. How you been?
I got married.
I know. That's one reason why I've been trying to tie you down to talk to you on the pod for at least a year and a half now, and trying to get the schedules out.
I know. It's difficult. It's difficult. I got married. Her name is Naomi. We met. We met before the pandemic, and then things got like. One of the things that happened with the pandemic was that I saw a lot of relationships and a lot of people who were close to one another during the pandemic. And a lot of relationships just faltered. A lot of relationships because either they weren't used to spending time together or they weren't used to being confined, in their homes for such a long period of time. And it was the opposite for Naomi and I. Like we got stronger during that. Even after the iHeart layoffs, which had nothing to do with the pandemic. It was just a corporation going through layoffs. And I ended up working for another radio station just north of us in Durango, Colorado.
I remember that. You started doing that, right? We did that pod.
Exactly. I had just started there. And then about 4 months later, I got a gig covering local sports, what little of it there really was at that time, for a paper here in Farmington, New Mexico. Did that for a little while. And then just recently got, there's another newspaper here in town called the Tri-City Record. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But now I'm working for them. They're owned by a different company altogether and started doing that. And now I've been covering high school and local small college sports for them.
So you're still busy?
Busy all the time. Busy with a home life, busy with kids, busy with cats. Busy with a wife.
Wait. Kids.
Step kids.
You have some kids?
I have 3 step kids. Yes. Mila, who is the daughter. She is the middle child. Dylan, the youngest, he just turned 10. And Carlisle, the oldest, who is 16.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that stuff, kids.
Oh, yeah. It's been let me tell you, let me just put this out there as if you're thinking about it, really, really think about how much you enjoy your quiet alone time. That's all. I mean, just consider that before you decide anything. Don't get me wrong. I love Naomi to death, and we are great, Right. But it's one of those things where you really have to know what you're getting yourself into, and so does she. She did too, and the kids did too. But we're doing the best we can, and everything is good, and we're all just going about our business. She's got a job working at a local casino here, where she's going to end up being, ironically enough, she's going to wind up being working in the sports book.
Really?
Knowing nothing about sports whatsoever, except what I teach her, which is going to be bad.
Are you doing any radio or any podcasting right now?
No, I miss it. I miss it every day of my life. And don't get me wrong, I love writing. I do. I grew up writing. That's what I did. It's what I did in the beginning. It's what I did in junior high school. It's what I did in high school. It's what I did in college. Yeah. Radio came along and kind of swept me off my feet when I was in my 30s. Now I'm 53, and I struggle with the idea that I'm done with radio. I struggle with that from time to time because I miss it so much. But I also recognize that I have to go where I can pay my bills. And I still have a tremendous respect for radio. I am saddened most every single time I turn on a sports radio network or a sports radio talk show because I'm disgusted by it, because it's no longer two people having a conversation like you and I. It's 4 or 5 people trying to outshout and out hot take the other. And I don't like that. That's just not radio.
I feel like every time we do a podcast, we always talk about that. Like, and it's funny, like you could look at our podcast over the course of the last, so we've been working together now probably, wow, you know something? I just realized, first time I went on your old radio show on Fox Sports Radio, was
you and I started that back in, you and I started that back about 2013.
Yeah. And so about almost 10 years. And it's funny, when you started coming to my podcast, probably about a little bit after that, and every so often we have these discussions about sports media. I swear to God, you listen to those old podcasts. Every time we do a podcast, it's like the landscape changes again and changes again and changes again in those 10 years.
Yeah. And it's gotten and it's not just, I mean, I don't want to just isolate it to sports talk radio, because it's happened in news talk, it's happened on cable news networks, because they have to compete with the others.
Yeah, of course.
And it's turned into a competition. I know you and I were talking about this before we came on with the podcast tonight. We were talking about the Skip Bayless, the Skip Bayless. I don't know what you want to call it.
Skip Bayless experience, undisputed.
The Skip Bayless experience, for lack of a better term. And it's like, I don't know when it became necessary to outshout Skip Bayless, or when to outshout Chris Mad Dog Russo, or when it became cool to try and outshout Pat McAfee. Could anyone be less interesting than Pat McAfee, who stands around in his muscle shirt and his jocularity and his bullshit? I'm sorry, but I can't stand him. He is God's just biggest, worst thing that ever happened to the sports talk radio industry.
So I feel somewhat, I totally understand where you're coming from with that. And as someone who's been listening to sports radio since I was my early aughts, 10, 11, 12 years old, back in the day, I definitely see the say, I guess, disgust to some degree of where everything is today. I feel like though today, there's space for everything though. There's space for the barbershop talk that McAfee brings. There's space for embrace debate that First Take and Undisputed still does 10, 15 years later. And there's still space for the legacy players like someone like you that does, and the long form conversational stuff, which I honestly, I gotta be honest with you, as I gotten older, even though I don't mind the debates and stuff once in a while, like First Take once in a blue moon, I still crave discussion, sitting down, just having a talk, stripping down a topic, whatever it may be, whether it be on sports, politics, and just stripping it down and having a discussion. I think conversations is where I've come to a point in my life where that's where I like my bread and butter is conversational stuff, long form podcast, that kind of thing.
It's the only show I can really tolerate. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. The only show I can literally tolerate for more than maybe 2 minutes in my morning commute or evening commute, whatever, is Dan Patrick. And even him I find kind of vanilla and boring, because he essentially just toes the company line for the most part. Of course. But that's about the only show. I will try and occasionally listen to a Doug Gottlieb, or I'll try and occasionally listen to some of the other shows that are on some of the other networks, but for the most part, they bore me. Colin Cowherd is god awful.
But you never liked him. You've always never been a fan of his, though. To be fair, you've always been.
I've never been a fan of Colin.
Yeah, you've been on that road for a long time.
Yeah, so. Not everything requires a top 10 list. Not every topic in sports requires a top 10 list. And if you're that clueless about other sports in the middle of July that you have to, or I'm sorry, not even July, let's say May. if you're that clueless about other sports, there's one of my cats in the background right there.
Kitty.
Yeah, you can see him right there.
This is my old cat actually that I used to have.
Yeah, it's an old. Yeah, it's an old. She's an old sour bitch. I'll tell you what. No. If you're that clueless about other sports in mid-May that you have to go through a top 10 list of who's the best wide receiver in the NFL in May, then you are not doing your job in following other sports that are going on in May, whether it be the NBA, whether it be Major League Baseball, whether it be anything. Yeah. I mean, if you're that clueless that you have to spend a half an hour talking about the top 10 cornerbacks or, the top 10 quarterbacks, whatever, if that's how bad you are, then you don't deserve to be on the air.
But I will admit, though, in his case, though, at least he admits he's not a big baseball guy. At least he admits that. That's
right. But then that comes back to a corporate decision of why would you hire him?
He still brings in ratings even that time of year. That's the thing. It's all about ratings.
It is. It's all about ratings. And unfortunately, there's just not. Unfortunately, the talent pool is pretty shallow at that end. So
yeah, and I think also media as a whole, as I was mentioning earlier about how there's space for a lot of these things. What's happened with sports media, with media in general, is that everything now has become fragmented now.
Oh yeah.
Like you have your preferences laid out. And you just pick the preference you want, and that's it. Which is fine, I guess. To some degree, you have that still out there. But I just hate that. I'm with to some degree that I hate that the stuff that's less authentic is the most popular.
Oh yeah,
that's the stuff I think you and I agree on.
The shouting matches between Stephen A. Smith and insert name of co-host here are some of the most disingenuous things you'll ever hear on radio.
I get it.
I can't stand them. Like the one guy that I actually miss on sports talk radio, even though I didn't care much for his takes on things, whatever, I miss Clay Travis. I do.
Really? He's still around, but it's just,
I mean, he does a political show now, and his show kind of bordered between politics and sports, even when he was on Fox Sports Radio. But I miss that because he actually did allow for a conversation to take place. So I do.
He's a grifter now too, though, because the
thing
is, he does the shit he says. He doesn't even believe that stuff half the time. He just
he took
that's money.
He took the money. He absolutely took the money, and good for him for doing it. But don't try and pass yourself off as being something other than someone who just took the money.
Right. Yeah, he frustrates me because he's a brand that I used to actually kind of admire, his own. He did it on his own, from the bottom, that kind of thing, right to the top, but then he's just kind of this grifting, and that's obviously that's my bag.
I agree. I totally agree.
That's my bag. So. We want to touch on first, because since we had docket of stuff to talk about,
we have a docket of things to talk about, but I guess obviously the big story of the week was the Aaron Rodgers story in the New York Jets organization. Tragic. And all the irony about it,
and yet so Jets-like, not surprising at all.
That's the best part of it, is that it's completely a Jet story. And I read somewhere the other day, I think it was, that Colin Kaepernick's agent contacted the Jets that says that he's available. To which my first reaction to that was, wait, Colin Kaepernick has an agent? He hasn't thrown a pass in 7 years. How does he still have an agent?
Can we stop? Because Jamel Hill. And I love Jamel Hill. I do. I really do. Is she a little too left for my taste? Yes. But I do admire the balls to put her out there, whatever. She tweeted that stuff literally a day after the injury happened. Kaepernick's out there. I'm like, can we stop? Look, did Kaepernick get blackballed? Yes, he did.
Did Kaepernick do it to himself?
Yes, he did also too.
Yes,
we all agree with that across the board. Football alone. Forget the politics, everything else. Football alone. He hasn't thrown a pass in 7 years.
Right.
What are we doing? Seriously, what are we doing?
If the New York Jets were truly that desperate, they still wouldn't call Colin Kaepernick out there.
Right.
They still wouldn't do it.
Because, again, 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what it is. That's, I don't understand why that's even coming off people's lips anymore. And not only that,
because it's clickbait, and that goes back to the sports media thing. It's clickbait, and it's all about how we can generate just one more hot take, that one more click on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called. That one more click that we can generate that's going to get a little bit of revenue, or that's going to get a little bit of attention, and it's nonsense. And I don't know that Zach Wilson isn't going to do well with the Jets. I don't know that. I don't know that the Jets aren't going to wind up winning 8 or 9 games. I didn't think they had much of a chance to get beyond maybe 8 or 9 wins anyway this year, even with Aaron Rodgers. So if they end up winning 9 or 10, it's like a blessing in disguise. And then the best discussion of the offseason is, well, what the hell do we want him back for?
I'll tell you what, though, I'm on board for the Zach Wilson redemption tour. I'm on board.
Sure, why not?
It'd be a nice story. I mean, you can't ask for a better opportunity to turn a narrative. Literally, this guy was literally on the way out of town last year.
Oh yeah.
Okay, literally laughed out on this team. They get Aaron Rodgers. Okay, fine, he's your backup. Maybe he backs a couple of years, learns from the legend. That whole thing. Then Rodgers gets hurt four plays into the fucking. I mean, you can't make this up, dude.
And let me ask this question, because if I'm remembering history correctly, Aaron Rodgers was one of those guys who didn't want to do the COVID vaccinations because he didn't trust the doctors who were handing out the medical advice on how to deal with COVID. But apparently he's okay in trusting his doctors who told him that he's got a torn Achilles tendon and that he's going to have to miss an entire season of football. I guess the doctors there were okay, but the doctors 3 years ago, not so much.
And that's another whole rabbit hole we go. Yeah. Immunized. What was the word he used? Immunized.
Right. But I mean, but it's just this thing of, when you're going to stand on one when you're going to stand on one platform, then you better be prepared to deal with the repercussions of it when it comes back and it looks like you're a little bit of a hypocrite.
Facts. That being said, Aaron Rodgers out for the year, age 39, will be 40 next year if he decides to come back. Do you think he'll come back?
I think he thinks he's coming back. I think if the Jets win 9 or 10 games this year, and his rehab goes slowly, or if there's this feeling of, hey, we still have to pay this guy, we don't know what his status is going to be, I think the Jets organization owes it to themselves to have a conversation or reduce his salary. And if I'm Zach Wilson and I do come out and win 9 or 10 games, and that contract is about to come to an end, and all of a sudden they won 9 or 10 games, Zach Wilson's like, hey, what about me?
True. Well,
I mean, that'd be my. I mean, I think in his world, yes, he thinks he's coming back. But if I'm Zach Wilson, all of a sudden the opportunities are out there for me to overachieve and to get this team into the postseason. And suddenly, then I forget the guy's name. He becomes there was a guy on the Rams a few years ago who came in when they had gotten themselves a big name quarterback, and then he got hurt, and then the new guy came in and he did really well. It was Sean Hill, I think it was, who came in.
Yeah, something like that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Sean. I know it's Sean Hill, but I know who you're talking about.
And then all of a sudden they won like 8 or 9 games, and they're like, well, what about this guy?
It is Sean Hill, by the way. It is Sean Hill.
Yeah.
It is Sean Hill.
Yeah, so it's just, there's it's that whole situation. And, I mean, it's unfortunate. The NFL obviously likes having Aaron Rodgers around because he draws big ratings. Yeah. The Jets are still going to have 3 or 4 primetime TV appearances. So, but I think now all of a sudden I'm more interested in the Jets than I was with him on the team. I'm more interested.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't care? You weren't into the Rodgers Jets thingy?
Not really. I mean, I thought he was Brett Favre part 2. I really do. I really think he's Brett Favre part 2. He just wants to hang on for a couple more years to, hang on to his relevancy a little bit. He obviously didn't like the Jordan Love situation in Green Bay and the way they were deciding to go in Green Bay. So he wants to go out there and prove himself. Well, good luck with that now.
Well, I've listened to a lot of people who are athletes who had Achilles injuries, and they say the rehab is painstaking.
Yeah.
And that's at 31 or younger. Yeah. He's 39 turning 40.
He's 39 turning 40, and and he's in a part of the country that he's not familiar. I mean, he can go, I don't know where he lives regularly, like during the off season, but I mean, he's not going to have, he's not in a familiar area. He's in a new city. He's in a new area. I don't know how well he was liked in New York City anyway. I mean, no one likes anyone in New York City for the most part, especially if you're not.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Especially if you're not doing anything. So,
right.
So I mean, it's going to be a different world for him. So I'm more interested in the Jets now. Just seeing what they can do. And, I think it's way too soon to, turn down on the Buffalo Bills. I know they lost the other day. I like the Miami story with Tua, and seeing if his redemption tour can continue this season. And so, and New England is New England, who's got to be laughing his ass off? That was Bill Belichick. He is.
Why is that?
Because he doesn't have to worry about Aaron Rodgers another year.
Well, that's what I worry about. Yeah.
We don't have to worry about Aaron Rodgers for another year. I mean, Belichick's going to win 6 or 7 games this year, but what the hell does he care?
I had him going 5-12 and probably being the greatest 5-12 team in history of football.
Yeah. Does Bill Belichick survive if they go 5-12 though?
Yeah. I do think there'll be some conversations had though after the year. I think it depends on how things shake out.
Right. I agree.
They fumbled the Mac Jones thing like badly.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah,
and the coordinator situation.
Bill Belichick will go when Bill Belichick wants to go. It's not going to be I don't think it's going to be a Robert Kraft. Oh, we're really ticked off at you. Whatever. I don't think it's going to be that.
Right. No, I think there will be a conversation being had if they crater this year, which I don't think they will. I think they'll be a 7-ish win team.
Yeah.
So, now what is this with the NFLPA wanting to change the turf now as a result of this injury?
Okay, so the NFL Players Association, they're angry right now because don't forget, 24 hours before that Jets game, there was the Sunday night game between the Cowboys and the Giants, which was also
Don't remind me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Giants
Which was played at MetLife Stadium, and the Giants, for whatever reason, just decided to turn into like it was like amateur hour for the New York Giants for 3.5 hours.
I felt and
then the very next day they played the Jets game.
Right.
So there's some discussion about whether or not the artificial turf at MetLife Stadium was to blame somehow for Aaron Rodgers' injury, that it didn't have time to cover. It didn't have time to recover. It was saturated with the rain. It's not real grass, blah, blah, blah. So now the NFL Players Association, they want to eliminate artificial turf at every NFL stadium. Okay, so let's go over the NFL stadiums that currently have artificial turf. Every dome stadium in the league, okay? That includes Allegiant Stadium for the Raiders. That includes SoFi Stadium for the Rams and the Chargers. That includes all the dome stadiums. It includes Arizona. It includes about 9 or 10 different stadiums. And the reason that they have the artificial turf is because it costs way too much to keep up the field, and they can use the field for other events, including soccer matches, including concerts, things of that nature. They're not getting rid of artificial turf in any of these stadiums. They're not. So the NFL Players Association can bellyache and moan all they want, but they're not changing this because, quite honestly, if you looked at Allegiant Stadium a few weeks ago, they had, I believe her name is Taylor something. Taylor, is it Fast? Taylor Fast? Taylor Quickly? Taylor Swift, that's her name. She had like 8 billion people show up at her concerts.
Wait, it took you that long to get a Taylor Swift's name?
I was just doing
that. I'm gonna say you.
I mean, I'm not a fan, but I know her name, for crying out loud.
You know enough of pop culture to know her name like that. Come on, that had to be a joke. I was trying
to be ironic.
I know.
I was trying to be an asshole. Whatever.
I was hoping you say Taylor Dane or someone like.
Taylor Dane, why not? Taylor Dane. It had 8 billion people at her show.
Yeah,
whatever. But Taylor Swift had like 8 zillion people show up at her concerts at these stadiums that they could set up bleachers on artificial turf. And these stadiums, which are built and they cost hundreds and thousands and millions and billions of dollars to build these stadiums, they're not changing these stadiums simply because, oh, God forbid Aaron Rodgers is going to get hurt. No, they're not. So the NFL Players Association can bitch and moan all they want, but that's not changing.
And they only bitch when like someone big gets hurt.
Right. Like, they don't bitch when it's some 315-pound offensive lineman from Cornell that no one ever heard of.
Exactly.
Before.
Makes no sense.
Yeah. So they're not changing this anytime soon. So that conversation needs to come to an end.
Yeah. You all in this Deion Sanders thing?
I'm into the Deion Sanders thing for a couple of reasons. I'm into the Deion Sanders thing because, quite honestly, to the established new breed of college football fans, forgive my language, fuck you. This is what
you always curse this podcast. Don't never apologize.
I know, but I don't. So I grew up when CU meant something in college football. I grew up when they competed for a national championship. I was 19 and I hated CU, but I also hated Notre Dame. So it was like it's like, what the hell do I do in 1989? But I grew up when CU was a big deal. I grew up when the Big 8 was a big deal. So I enjoy I enjoy seeing Colorado succeed. Now, whether or not I enjoy seeing Deion Sanders succeed is another story. But what I do like about it is he's put CU on the map.
Yeah.
Now it's 2 weeks in. They're gonna newsflash, they're gonna beat the shit out of CSU tomorrow night. They're gonna destroy Colorado State. But then they got Oregon. And then right after that, 2 weeks later, they got
your
USC.
boys. Your boys.
Yeah, they got my boys.
Yeah.
So it could be a different world, but he's put CU in a place of relevancy. And for that, I like it. I do. I enjoy watching Colorado mean something again because, I mean, they've been a laughing stock of the Pac-12 since they came over a few years ago. They were a joke in the Pac-12. And maybe Deion Sanders has the right idea. Do I agree with all of his methods? No. Do I think that he's more hype than substance? Yes. But that's the way college football is right now. College football is more hype than substance. And so
he's definitely giving college football a shot in the arm. I'll tell you that right now. Just the whole thing, the whole spectrum of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's why I love Deion. And this is the same guy that plays on teams I hated. Other than college teams, I'm a Florida State guy.
Right.
But play on the Cowboys, hate them. Play on the Niners, hate them. Play on the Redskins, hate them. Deion Sanders has been the same guy since college, pros, media, coaching. He's the same guy.
Yeah.
The reason why
same guy even when he played baseball with the Atlanta Braves, same guy.
Yeah. So whether you love or hate him, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He hasn't changed at all. And that, to me, I respect that. I respect people who are their authentic self,
right,
more than anything else. So
I guess my bigger question and concern will be, what's his long-term game? Like, I don't imagine 3, 4, 5 years from now he's still going to be at CU. I don't think he's got any allegiance to them. I don't think he's got any allegiance to anybody except Deion Sanders, which that's fine. You want to, if that's who you are, and that's who you genuinely are, then that's fine. But I don't want the expectation to then just go to crap when he decides that he wants to move on because the NFL's calling his name.
So you just said it then. So let's do it right now on this podcast. Let's place the over-under right now. 5 years.
NFL.
Oh, he's in the NFL?
Oh yeah, he'll be in the NFL.
Interesting. You'll think maybe because he's earned it, maybe because he's a name. Because let's be honest here. Think of the head coaches that are barely holding on right now. Sean Payton barely holding on, clinging on to his last couple of years of relevancy, right? Okay, right. Think about that. Think about the Bill Belichick's of the world, who we just mentioned a minute ago. Barely clinging on to relevancy at this point. Think about some of the other coaches that are bouncing around the NFL, the Ron Riveras of the world, who are clinging on to whatever the hell the Washington team is calling themselves this year. Think about these guys that, have been in the game for 20 or 30 years. Then you have a guy like Sanders, who still relatively young, gets a big audience, gets a big draw, and and for all the hype and hyperbole that the NC2A game gets, it's about to change dramatically with the conference realignments, right,
and Colorado moving from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. The television contracts are going to be different then, but the NFL still marches along, and the NFL is going to be bigger than life in 3 or 4 years.
Isn't there more money in college, coaching college, in the NFL though?
There is, but there's also not. There's the idea of Deion wants to be back where he had his greatest.
So it's the ego.
It's the ego.
It's ego, right?
It's where he's got his biggest ego boost, and he's going to get all the clips on Saturday night, but how do you get the clips on Sunday? And I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, I mean, if that's his end game, that's his end game, and good for him for getting it. But I do think eventually, within 5 years, he'll either be in the NFL or he's the new head coach of whatever the number one team in college football is supposed to be the following 3 or 4 or 5 years.
No, see that what you said there, I think is probably the bigger play. I think the play for him is probably going to the college program first.
Okay.
I mean, who knows?
Maybe in Alabama.
I was just going to say that. Maybe LSU. Maybe Brian Kelly fails in a couple of years and he goes LSU. Right. Maybe, I mean, Florida State.
Maybe Nick Saban, God forbid, loses 2 or 3 games in a year. He decides he's had enough.
Speaking of which, I was on Hello Podcast a couple days ago, and I mentioned that their loss to Texas felt different. Like, that's not just the fact they lost and the way they lost. I feel like that loss signaled that for the first time in about over a decade, that Bama will be good no matter what. They'll still be solid.
Right.
But for the first time, I feel like if they lose 3 or 4 games this year, I'm not surprised.
Well, and again, this goes back to CU being relevant. Isn't it great to see Texas relevant again?
It is pretty cool, yeah.
I mean, that's what I grew up. I mean, don't get me wrong. Still hate 2003. Still hated the Orange. Still hated the Rose Bowl with Vince Young. But that's what I remember. I remember Texas being relevant. And for the last decade or so, they really haven't been. They've sort of been that, they're okay. They're not great. They're not a national championship team. But now seeing them relevant again, that's a big deal. So I think it does feel different. You're right. The loss to Texas felt different because we're not used to seeing them lose to anybody but LSU. We're not used to seeing them lose to anybody but Clemson. We're not used to seeing them lose, the second week of the season. So That's where it felt different. But I think it's great to see Texas be relevant.
Yeah, Texas be relevant again. USC has been really good last couple of years. Florida State looks like they're back again. Georgia is starting to separate now in the SEC. Like now we're at the point now where it was Georgia, Alabama, and Georgia won the last 2 national titles, but Bama's winning the conversation. Now it feels like Georgia's pulled away now.
Right.
Like they're pulled away from the rest of the pack now.
Yeah.
And Bama.
It's great to see the Pac-12 conference, in its last year basically of existence. It's great to see the Pac-12 conference, showing up finally,
Does a realignment bother you?
It bothers me because I'm old school. It bothers me because I'm getting old and I don't like I like tradition, so
of course, me too.
It bothers me. It bothers me that somehow or another we decided that geography doesn't matter anymore and that somehow there's a Pac-12 school that exists in the Midwest. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Weird. It's weird seeing Pac-12 teams playing, West Coast teams in California playing in the Big 10. What are we doing?
And good luck to USC. I don't think it's this year. I think it's next year when USC has a road game at Rutgers. Like that's USC playing in Piscataway, New Jersey. Good luck with that. That's going to go well.
How long does that stick for a while? How long does that stick? I think at some point that's not going to stick anymore. I think probably in 10 years you'll see another like Western, like Pacific Conference be created, and maybe they'll pull some teams back there. Who knows?
I think what eventually ends up happening is that we lose the NC2A altogether and their involvement in college football.
Right.
I think it becomes like a minor league. I think it becomes like a minor league professional thing where so-and-so is like there's going to be a Western athletic conference. There's an Eastern athletic conference. There's a Northern and a Southern, and we're going to have the Division I schools in there. And I think that's eventually where this goes because this model right now with having 22 teams in the Big 12 and 16 teams all over the place in no sort of geographical sense whatsoever in all these conferences, it's too messy. So someone's got to come in and clean it up a little bit. And so I think that's what you're going to see eventually happen is an 8-league structure. Right. But the NC2A is eventually just going to say, look, we can't do it, because NIL changed everything.
Yep.
The NIL changed everything as far as college sports are concerned. Name, image, and likeness has changed the way we watch college sports today. The most successful college athlete in terms of getting money is a gymnast from LSU.
As a capitalist, I'm okay with it. Right. As someone who's old school, I can understand and even sympathize why people feel uncomfortable and weird about the whole thing. I get it. There's two sides. Yeah. I can see both sides of the argument on that one. Listen, I'm a capitalist. I don't care. So like,
Right. I mean, this is how business operates. And if you're angry about it, then maybe you should have gotten angry at the NC2A years ago when they screwed Ed O'Bannon out of all that money from Madden EA Sports. Maybe you should have gotten mad about that time.
Yep.
Because that would have been the time to get angry about it.
And that was the starting point of where we're at.
That was the tipping point right there. Absolutely. That's when the dominoes started to fall.
So, are you a fan of the new playoff start next year, the 12-team playoff?
I haven't even had time to digest it yet, but I mean, again, it's not about whether or not we'll watch it. Of course, we're going to watch it, but it's really all about follow the money. This is what everything comes back to. This goes to what you said a moment ago about it's all about capital. It doesn't have anything to do with are we putting the best teams in the playoffs, because 12's not going to be enough. Then we're going to have someone bitch that we need 16. Then someone's going to bitch that we need 24. Then we're going to have the NC2A March Madness all over again. It's never going to be enough. It will honestly, as long as there are people out there who are willing to either fork over the money to watch it on pay-per-view, or the people who are going to, turn over their Saturday nights to watch ESPN Plus, ESPN2, ESPN Deportes, or 16, Peacocks, or whatever the hell these streaming devices are now. As long as they're willing to fork over the money to do it, then they're going to do it. People are going to watch it. People are going to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I see, like I said, like much like the NIL, I see both sides. The thing that makes college special, obviously, is that every week, every game matters thing. You lose one game, it's like you could be out of it. Lose two, you're definitely out of it, that kind of thing.
Right.
Now, does it water it down a little bit? Yes. But I also like the fact that more teams get a crack and a chance to, win a national title.
Sure.
So, I'm for that. I'm
definitely for that. And again, if you were that upset about it before, if you don't like it now, then the time to have gotten involved would have been when Larry Scott and the Pac-12 conference decided to basically bastardize themselves and put their games on ESPN late night at 11:30 at night, so that no one on the East Coast could actually watch their games. That would have been the time to bitch about it.
Right.
But you didn't do that. Fans didn't do that, and now ESPN basically told the Pac-12 at that time to basically piss off because we can make more money broadcasting something else, and so that's why they decided to abandon Pac-12 football.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of sad that Pac-12 football's be gone. I'm actually kind of sad by that. I'm not even a big Pac-12 fan, but I like the fact that you had that. They had the whole image, like the whole like high scoring thing, and that Oregon, it was fun to watch. USC's fun to watch. A couple of those teams fun to watch. I'm kind of sad it's going away. I'm kind of sad.
Actually. I mean, it should never have come to this, but it was going down this road for the last 4 or 5 years because of mismanagement at the upper levels of the Pac-12 conference.
Right. What'd you make of the new low management rules in the NBA?
I didn't.
They announced some stringent rules now on players taking games off.
I did hear about this. Good. I mean,
I'm there too. You
and I for dramatically as far as the NBA is concerned, because I loathe the NBA. I can't stand the NBA.
You used to love it.
I hate everything about pro basketball. It is the most uninteresting, unappealing. I am forever disinterested in everything about the NBA, basically because it became street ball. It became 3-point shots, no defense, no skills. And it's basically like watching outdoor basketball with a bunch of amateurs, and all they're doing is just getting way, way, way too overpaid.
No, I guess I can understand that. Like, I disagree like with that, but I understand why you feel that way. And some of the things, the low management thing, especially too, it makes it unappealing to a lot of folks. Who like, for example, like players. People pay a lot of money to go to games. Fans pay a lot of money to go to games, and then LeBron decides I'm not going to play this.
Right, LeBron decides, I got a hangnail. I'm going to sit out for 3 or 4
years. Like, come on. Like, Michael Jordan played 82 games, like 9 of 15 years playing the league. The other couple of years, he played 81 games. In his last 3 years, I saw a stat say too. Also, Michael Jordan's last repeat, with Chicago, 1998, all didn't miss one game.
Yeah,
did not miss one game, including.
Yeah. So the idea that the game has changed, okay, perhaps, but so is the athlete, and the athlete has become just far more of a prima donna and far more of a diva. And I could care less. The NBA to me became disinteresting about 10 years ago.
I could say that, yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think what bothers me about a lot of the players today too, also, and I said as a diehard fan, is the lack of self-awareness to doing things like that, like sitting out games. And for the record, ain't just the players, coaches also on this too. Also, ownership also saying on this as well too. So ain't just the players doing this, because if the coaches want to play, they play, and the owners want to play, they play also too. So it's a trickle down effect from the top to the bottom too.
Absolutely,
the players get the blame because they're the ones they're the faces of the whole thing. But I totally get that. I totally understand why people have like a disgust with the NBA now, especially because of and you're someone that used to love the NBA back in the day.
I did. Again, this goes back to like I grew up with college football being Colorado being relevant. I grew up in Los Angeles, for crying out loud.
Laker fan, yeah.
And the Lakers were the only game in town, and you couldn't wait to go to a Lakers game. You couldn't wait to rip into the Clippers, because it was the only time you ever got to actually go see an opposing team play. It was when they played the Clippers, because only 9 people showed up at a Clippers game. I mean, that was. I grew up in that, so I grew up, watching the Lakers in the heyday back with, Byron Scott and Kareem and Magic and all that. So, I miss that version of the NBA, and I miss, enjoying the NBA. Just like, literally, it's the same thing with like talk radio. I can literally only watch maybe like 2 minutes before I'm just like, I'm done.
How are your daughters doing?
Well, if our pitchers can stop, allegedly, beating up on people, we'll be fine. I don't understand the Trevor Bauer thing from a year ago, and I certainly don't understand the Julio Urias thing right now.
That's a mess.
Our starting rotation now consists of Clayton Kershaw, who's precisely 14 years younger than me, and I'm not prepared to go out there and pitch. That's for damn sure. A guy named Ryan Pepio, another guy named Yarbrough, a guy named Michael Grove, and you. That's our starting rotation right now.
So you're saying that they're going to be one and done in the playoffs?
I'm saying that I'm really, really hoping that the Phillies can beat the Braves in the other National League divisional series, because we can beat the Phillies, but we can't beat the Braves, not with their rotation.
My worst nightmare is seeing those two teams play each other in the National Championship Series.
Yeah. I get it. I understand that. Like,
I checked out months ago. The Mets suck this year, so I checked out.
Oh, yeah. Ago. I think there's the two most fascinating parts of that Dodgers story are, again, like, Julio Urias was a guy that, the Dodgers really banked a lot into. They put a lot into him because Mexican heritage thing. And he was really representing the country well, blah, blah, blah. Then he goes and does this, and he's done. I mean, they've already cleared out his locker. They've already washed their hands of him. But this team was solid, top to bottom. Freeman, Betts. They had it going this year. And in a season where they didn't have Gavin Lux because they lost him, in spring training, for them to be sitting where they are. And can I just say, for the record, to anyone who might be a San Diego Padres fan, you need to stop, because the Padres are always going to be Padres, and they're always going to be the most underachieving, massively disappointing team in the history of Major League Baseball. And God bless them, because, Juan Soto, hey, could have been you. You could have come to LA and we'd be fine right now. But no, you decided you wanted to go to San Diego and join Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis and his motorcycle accident, and all that bullshit. So the Padres are going to Padre. Good luck to them.
Hey, they asked for it, man. They got excited when the year started.
They did. They were going to win. They were going to win 95 games, and they were going to be in the World Series. And instead, they're not going to make the playoffs. The other part of it is how much of a bullet got dodged by every other team in Major League Baseball that didn't go in on Shohei Ohtani at the trade deadline. His injury costs him hundreds of millions of dollars.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
He's probably never going to be able to pitch with the same effectiveness again. Don't forget, he's 31. So it's not like he's some spring.
He is 21. Yeah, he is. I keep forgetting he's a little older than
Yeah, he's not some 20-year-old hotshot. He's in his 30s now. So by the time he comes off the surgery at the end of the season, and by the time he comes back, wherever he winds up, it's going to cost him probably half the amount of money that it was proposed that he was going to cost a team to make that trade for him at the trade deadline. They were talking $600 million.
Yeah. And
for
now?
A team, for now it's 250 at best.
Wow. Make a drop off?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Who's gonna go for a 31-year-old maybe pitcher who may be able to hit 25 or 30 home runs, and only half those teams, and only what, 1/3 of the teams in Major League Baseball could afford him to begin with?
One of them is you. One of them is your team.
Oh yeah, one of them is our team.
Do you want him in LA?
I think there's a very good likelihood the Dodgers go in on him, but I think that before they do that, they ought to have someone in the operating room when that surgery does take place. I wouldn't go in. I wouldn't go all in on him at this point. I wouldn't, but I could see it. I could definitely see it. He's a damn sight better than the alternative of what we're starting. We're going to be going out with our starting pitching in the next month or so. But I don't think we need him. I don't think the Dodgers need him. A team that's on the brink, a team like a Seattle, a team like a Yankees, I could definitely see that. But those teams have to be able to afford him. I mean, it's not going to cost him anything as far as, players are concerned. It's just going to cost him a lot of money in the offseason. But it's not going to cost him any. I mean, imagine if the Dodgers had given up all the prospects that were out there for Shohei Ohtani, and they would have given up $500-600 million, to keep him for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. A guy who's going to be in his late 30s by the time that's over. And they got the Mike, and don't forget the Angels, who are still always going to be Angels. They've got to now figure out what they're going to do with Mike Trout, who wants apparently to leave now.
Yeah, I saw that report a couple days ago.
Yeah, Mike Trout
finally spoke up. And if I'm the Angels, get rid of him.
If I'm the Angels, he's done. But who could afford that?
He already signed his big deal.
Who's gonna eat that contract?
Someone will. There's always
someone's gonna eat that contract. I can't tell you the amount. I mean, I felt bad for Shohei Ohtani because it's not his fault, but the overwhelming amount of glee that went through my body the minute I heard about the injury that the Dodgers didn't go in on him. The overwhelming amount of satisfaction that me, the cynical, crotchety old man that I am, I was so glad we didn't go in on Shohei Ohtani. Not because I don't like the guy. I have nothing against him. Whatever. I think he's amazing. He's clearly one of the greatest players that we've seen in this maybe or any other generation in Major League Baseball. He's one of those. Yeah. But I don't want anything to do with him now. Nothing.
Well, only that, but I thought it would be stupid for any team to go after him unless you're getting a commitment from the state long term. It would be dumb to go after him in the first place.
Right. And if you're not going to get, and as far as I'm concerned, the Dodgers rotation, if they get Buehler back next season, which looks like they will get him back next season, if Dustin May can come back next season, and we'll figure out what to do with obviously Urias is gone, but maybe you bring in Ohtani, you see what he can give you. But he's not your number one option at this point. And there's other pitchers that are out there that are going to be available in the free agent world this offseason. I wouldn't want anything to do with him at this point unless you can get him for a bargain.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So within this 3 years, this was last podcasted, you're a massive Tool fan, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Massive.
Have been since day one.
I know you have. Yeah. I saw them. I mean, and you know this already too, because
I know
we talk a lot off air.
Yeah.
I did see him early last year. Let me tell you, that was an experience.
Did you watch Danny just play drums for one song like I told you?
Sure did.
He's incredible.
And that's the thing about Tool. I think you get from the regular band. And I've been through hundreds and hundreds of shows. I'm a music lover, so it doesn't matter. That's the one band where. This is why you can't call Maynard a front man, because the way he performs, he's not in the front. It's literally the entire band as is.
Yeah.
Maynard's on the side.
Yeah, Maynard stands off to the side. He's in the back. He doesn't want to be up front.
I've been to many, many, many shows in my life, and top 10 show easy for me.
But the funny thing about Maynard is that when he's with his other bands, he is more of a front man.
Yeah.
When he's with the Perfect Circle, when he's with Pucifer, he is more of a front man. But And what I go back to is if you go back to the most recent Tool album, Fear Inoculum, which came out about 6 months before the pandemic. Came out in 2019.
About 2018 it came out. Okay,
2018,
right.
2019, either one. It was.
I won't question you. You're the diehard. I won't question you.
It was about the musicianship. People were upset at the album because it wasn't old school Tool. It wasn't the angry, bitter, angry, oh, everything is shitty and angry. It wasn't that Tool, but it was about the musicianship. And that's what really shone to me in that album is it's about the musicians. It's not about the front man. It's not about the lead singer. It's about the incredible bass. It's about the incredible lead guitar. It's about the incredible musicianship of the other guys in the band. And the lyrics, they were a little bit more aloof. Maybe they were a little bit more existential, for lack of a better term. They weren't so angry and shitty, whatever. But it was about the musicianship. And that's what really shone through to me in the most recent album. And I think that's where Maynard's brilliance as a songwriter and Maynard's ability to create magic with words is it kind of got overshadowed a little bit by the musicianship of the band, and that's what you got to see when you went to go see them in concert last year.
And I'm glad I saw them on their own show, not a festival, because I feel like with a festival you don't get the entire experience. You get like a limited edition. Even they're headlining it too. You get an hour and a half tops, and that's it.
Yeah,
this show was 3 hours of unvarnished. You get the whole stage props, the whole nine. And it was an experience, man. I can't even call it a concert. It was an experience.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's truly an experience. And that's why, one of the, and again, like, it doesn't matter the location, but I mean, I still remember like two of the greatest shows I ever saw were both at Red Rocks, and they were just incredible.
Oh my God. You been there for Red Rocks tour?
I've been there for two of their shows at Red Rocks. Yeah.
That had been incredible. I love the way the stage is set up, the way that's on,
no, it's amazing. And the second time I saw them was with one of my best friends, and during the song Anima, where he talks about let the rain fall, let the learn to swim. It started pouring. It literally started pouring.
Really?
It was a rainstorm. That exact moment.
Amazing.
And that you can't get that. There's no way you script that.
Did you see that announced 2 days ago that Perfect Circle's touring again?
Yeah, they're going to be doing the Perfect Circle's touring, and they're going to do a show. Perfect Circle, Primus, and Pucifer are going to be doing a 60th birthday thing at Red Rocks in April.
You going to go?
I'm going to start walking now. I'm just going to start walking up there.
No, so basically he's doing double duty that tour.
Oh yeah. So I mean, and that's the thing. Like, he's 60. Like, I don't even think, like, I can't even fathom that in my head, because I've been such a fan since I was 28 when I discovered them. That would have been 1998, 97, 97.
Wait, you got late. You got pretty late on Tool.
No, I got in like when they first started. Like,
did they start in 91 though? They started in 91 was the first time.
They started in I'm sorry, you're right. 91. That's right. I got into them in college. I got into them just after college.
Yeah,
I got into them just after college. I'm forgetting. I'm old. Forgive my memory sometimes. I got into them. I saw them in one of their very first. It was a rock festival, and this was 91. Yeah, 91, 92. It was a rock festival that was headlined by Metallica and Jane's Addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And about 3 hours earlier, there was this band from Oakland.
Was it Day in the Green?
Yeah.
Because that's I'm thinking that's the Metallica. I know opened that show in 91 because that was started.
There was a show in San Bernardino. It was it was in Indio, California, and Metallica and Jane's Addiction were the headliners. And about 3 hours earlier, Tool took the stage and played 4 songs.
I want to research that actually now. That might be online somewhere probably.
Yes, you can find it. And then then I saw them at a place in Pomona called the Glass House. And that show I know is online. And that was 92.
Okay. Interesting.
And that's when I became like, that's when I didn't know anything about them at the time. I didn't know anything about them at all. But I was like, okay, I found my band. Because I heard
But what is the same thing also? Maynard not doing the frontman thing?
No, at that time he was very much a frontman.
Okay.
At that time he was very much the front guy. I don't think he had, and he wore really bizarre outfits. There's a show, if you can find it. There's a show you need to watch where he was still kind of a frontman at this time. This might have been 96. They do a show. I want to say it's in Philadelphia, and it's during a song called "Push It."
Okay.
Not the Salt and Pepper song, Push It. But
I was going to say that too.
I knew you were going there. A fan comes up on the stage.
Okay.
And approaches Maynard. Maynard does a full hip toss on the guy and then lays on him for the next 10 minutes and sings the rest of the song.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the great Maynard fan incident. You can type it in on YouTube.
I'm sure it's on YouTube. Yeah.
God, it's all over it. Yeah. And he literally screams the rest of the song while pounding his arm into this guy's back, into the back of this guy's neck.
I'm not sure we asked you this question before. I'll ask anyway. Your favorite Tool albums? What?
I'm sorry.
Your favorite Tool album? What's your favorite album of theirs?
It varies from mood to mood, but I think, as far as the overall concept of it all, I'm probably going to say, again, it really just depends on my mood. I'm probably going to say Anima, just because 46 and 2, Push It, those two songs have been sort of my staples from the very beginning. Those two songs have really just kind of always been carried with me. I've lately, over the last couple of years, I've kind of gotten into Lateralis for different reasons. But really, for me, Anima is always going to be the one I will go to in a pinch.
Would you say Lateralis is probably the biggest album, most popular album? Lateralis?
Probably Anima is still their most popular one.
Okay.
I think that's the one that's still their most popular because a lot of people that, especially like the younger generation, they hear Sober on the radio,
of course,
and they're like, okay, that's Tool,
Yeah.
Or they'll hear Anima, they'll hear the title track, they'll hear that. But if you want to introduce Tool to someone who's new.
Yeah.
If you find someone who, I don't know anything about the band, let them hear two songs. Let them hear oh God, I can't even think. Why can't I think of the name of it all of a sudden? There's two songs. There's The Pot, which is a great song.
On my favorite album of theirs, 10,000 Days.
Right. Okay. Yeah. There's The Pot, and then Vicariously. Let them hear that song.
The opening song on that album, and that is actually my favorite song of Tool of all time.
That is that song, more than anything, I think embodies their transition from being this rebel band to sort of seeing the world in a different light. That was the moment that band became, instead of it being prison sex, and instead of it being, 4 degrees and everything, the world sucks and we hate everything. That song right there, Vicarious, became the song that was like the transition to, okay, the world's changing and I'm changing because I'm Maynard and I'm in my mid 40s now, late 40s, early 50s, and the world's changing around us. And that song, more than anything, exemplifies that. So those two songs, if you meet someone who's not a Tool fan, or one of your listeners right now, not necessarily a Tool fan, doesn't know, those two songs, The Pot and Vicarious.
Vicarious is my favorite song of all their songs anyway. So I recommend that song to anybody. That song is incredible. And I think they played it at the show too.
They did. I'm sure.
I know they played The Pot definitely at the last show I saw.
And if you're not familiar with A Perfect Circle, or you're not familiar with Pucifer, there's a song that A Perfect Circle does called By and Down the River.
Okay.
Check that out. There's a song by Pucifer called Grand Canyon, which is beautiful in every way, shape, and
I keep forgetting he fronts that band. I keep forgetting that.
Yeah. When my wife and I, when we left our wedding, we got married in Vegas, and then we drove to Los Angeles. Take some time. We drove to Los Angeles, but to get back to when we came back through Arizona, I literally reprogrammed the entire drive so that Pucifer's Grand Canyon, we would be hearing it as we drove past the Grand Canyon.
Is she a fan too?
No, can't stand him.
She can't stand. Damn, she's not into any kind of rock
She's into R&B. She's into the hip hop thing. Which I sit there and listen to and keep my mouth shut because I can't stand it either. But whatever.
I'll be in the middle, and I'll be in the middle there enjoying both.
I know, right? But she'll sit there with her. She'll sit there with her Cardi B, and she'll sit there with her. What is it? There's something. Is it Dua Lipa? What is it?
Dua Lipa. I don't listen to her though.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know who she is.
See, I'm not into today's music as much.
Oh my God!
Are there, but I'm old school. I'm an old head, dude. I'm an old head.
Megan the Stallion, who apparently got shot in the foot by her ex-boyfriend or something.
And he's in jail now. He's in prison now for 10 years. I think it is some shit.
See, I hear these.
But you know this stuff, though. Come on.
I hear these things. I hear about these things. Then I think to myself, what the hell's wrong with my band? I mean, my bands are nice. They're the Maynard grows wine. That's all he does. He just wants to drink wine and wants to see the world be a better place. And instead of hearing about Nicki Minaj or whatever, it's just weird.
All I can say is keep trying. You keep trying. Maybe one day it clicks with her.
I know. I do, and then, but we'll drive. It depends on who's driving. Like if she's driving, I'm stuck. And if I'm driving, she's stuck.
Well, I know the feeling. My wife, when I first started dating, like she took one of the things that I know she did. She took over my radio all the time, and I had no choice with whatever she wanted. She played, And granted, thankfully, we like most of the same music for the most part, so it's not that bad.
Well, that helps,
but there come bands here, and I was like, okay, who's this? and then I appreciate some of those bands that she showed me, So
one of the things that she is into, or at least she's learning, is on the XM. When I'll turn on the XM in my car, we'll listen to like the '80s channel, that first wave.
I'm an '80s nut, so you already know that's
right.
That's my thing.
So I'll sit there and tell her all about Depeche Mode. I'll tell her all about The Cure. I'll tell her all about the Smiths or the Smithereens, and I'll tell her all about these bands. And then a certain song will come up, like this afternoon. "Pictures of You" by The Cure came on, and I was like, "Honey, just shush, just be quiet. It's "Pictures of You" by The Cure." And she's like, what the hell's the deal with this song? And I'm like, it's beautiful. That's what the deal is with the song. It's
the '80s is my favorite decade of all time.
Absolutely,
without question.
She appreciates some of it. Like REM, I think she's kind of like, okay, that's not terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, most everything she puts on the radio, I'm just like, oh my God, please just get us where we're going.
No, but that's the way you do it, though. You have to kind of graduate, especially when it comes to, like, if you're someone's into hip hop or R&B only. You got to gradually move them from the way you can do it is that you can't really pull them. You got to gradually do it.
So you can't yank them out of it.
You got to show them the lighter rock stuff, lighter rock, and then slowly they get to heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier.
Yeah, it just takes
That's
time.
how it works.
Like, I'm thrilled to death because, like, when I'll pick up some of the kids from school, her youngest one, like, I'll play Tool in the car, and now he's asking me about Tool, and I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
I'm gonna reel him in. Reel him in.
Yes, that's the way it works, man. That's the way it works. My kids say way too. My kids love everything. My oldest one, is starting getting hip hop now a little bit. But he likes some rock, but he's getting hip hop a little bit now. My youngest loves metal. He loves Metallica, Disturbed.
Are you a jazz fan?
I love everything.
Okay, check out. There's an artist that I just recently discovered. He's no longer with us. He passed away about a year ago. A French jazz musician by the name of Ahmad Jamal.
Ahmad Jamal.
Ahmad,
Ahmad
Jamal.
Okay, I'll check it out. Definitely.
Just amazing. Piano, everything. He was beautiful. I just recently discovered him a while ago, but he did some amazing work.
Yeah. You mentioned the writer's strike and what's going on with that. Have you been following over?
I guess what bothers me about the writer's strike is the last time we were here was a writer's strike was in the mid 90s, and it was the invention of reality TV, right? That's what created. Yeah. That's how we got the Kardashians. It's how we got Survivor. It's how we got The Greatest Race. And now
stuff you like, right?
Huh?
Stuff you like, right? No.
God, no.
I'm joking.
God. And now it's 90 Day Fiance, the Europe version. 90 Day Fiance, from 3 years ago. 90 Day Fiance, the new breed, whatever. Like, I feel bad because, like, television writers, movie writers are the AI thing is a discussion now. Mm-hmm. Are they losing money? Are they going to lose money? Are they going to lose jobs? And all I know is that I'm stuck watching. And again, this is I'm married now, so I watch 90 Day Fiance now because it's what's on.
Do you like it though? Is the question.
I find myself. I know, right? The silence is deafening. I find myself compelled to want to comment about how stupid these people are. But if I comment on how stupid these people are, that means I'm admitting that I'm paying attention to the show.
Exactly. It's a no-win situation. It's a no-win situation.
It is. I can't not pay attention to it, but I also can't not comment on it because I'm an asshole and I have to comment on everything.
I will confess though, the only reality TV I ever even gave a shit about was and this is only the early seasons of Real World. That's it. The early years, like the 90s, right. And that's the only reality TV I ever cared about. I can't do reality TV though because it's and the reason why is because it's fake.
It's fake. All of it is fake.
That's why it's not reality TV.
Every second of it is fake.
Yeah.
And I've tried to explain that to Naomi, and she just sits there. She's like, "I don't care. It's fascinating." I'm like, "It's not. There's nothing fascinating about it."
It's a big distraction.
These same people, there's cameras all over the place. They signed off on this.
Yeah. So I saw today that Bill Maher, Bill Maher, is coming back now. Despite the strike, he's gonna not do his monologue and only go straight to the panels and all that stuff, and which is fine to me. I'm not, to be honest with you, as much as I like Bill Maher, I've long done away with the monologues. I watched that show mainly for the panels.
Yeah, I watch it for the discussion. I watch it, and let's face it, it's a when would be a more perfect time for Bill Maher to be back is in the middle of a political campaign.
Which is crazy though, but the thing is, he has another podcast now too, which I do enjoy watching, Club Random. He has random people on, from any whether it's musicians or kind of like a Rogan, musicians or political figures or maybe. So I mean,
I'm glad he's coming back, but because at least it'll at least give us something to watch aside from 90 Day whatever. What did you think of Winning Time, the Lakers documentary?
I have not watched season 2 yet.
Okay, I have not seen season 2 yet. Season 1 was amazing.
Oh, I loved it. I love season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it. And I do plan to watch season 2. I think I'm waiting for the season to end, and I'm just going to binge it all the way through. Boom. In one shot.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, but I have not watched season 2 yet because I want to wait till I can watch the whole thing and just one weekend and just take a weekend and not do anything.
Well, that's a nice transition. This is the last time I ask you before we get out of here. And we always do this on the podcast. Every time we get together, whether it's on your radio show in 30 years or this podcast, obviously. What you watching these days?
Well, aside from the reality TV,
Beyonce.
aside from having to admit that, as far as movies were concerned, saw Oppenheimer, loved it. A little long in the tooth, but they got it right.
I need to see that one. Still.
They got it right. They don't. What I liked about Oppenheimer was that it neither makes you feel sympathetic to him and what he had to go through, nor does it make you feel like he was the villain. It lets you decide what his place in history was. For all the anger and discontent that some people got about Barbie, I don't see it. It was a cute movie. Everyone got all uproar about it. There was a certain segment of Americans, right-wing nut jobs, I'll call them, who decided that it was some sort of an indoctrination. I'm like, no, it's a cute kids movie. Move on. So I didn't mind that too much. I saw that with Naomi and the kids, and that wasn't the worst thing I ever saw in my life. As far as TV is concerned, I got to be honest. I'm not watching a lot of new stuff because there isn't a lot of new stuff on. So I went back to some of my old standards. I went back to the newsroom.
Of course, the newsroom's going to say that. It's going to say that.
Of course, you're going to go to the newsroom. Of course, that. I am looking forward to. I went back and actually rewatched season 3 of True Detective and loved it even more than I did the first time.
I don't think I saw that season actually.
Season 3 is brilliant. It's not season 2 because season 2 was like a nightmare, and it's not season 1 because season 1 was extraordinary. Season 1 will always go down as one of the greatest seasons of television in history. Season 3 is kind of like everyone kind of jumped off the bandwagon because of what happened with season 2, and then people stayed with it because it was, it was True Detective. Season 3 is extraordinary, so you need to go back and check that out. But I went back to the newsroom. I went back to West Wing, and because I'm an Aaron Sorkin fan. It's
funny you said that. So during the pandemic, my wife and I she watched it already years ago. But I started watching The West Wing actually over the pandemic. I never finished it yet. I got to season 4. But I love the show. I love it.
Yeah. Seasons 5, 6, and 7 kind of tail off a little bit. Rob Lowe's character goes off. So he disappears. And it's one of those things where the show kind of goes off the rails a little bit. But there's some moments in seasons 5 and 6 that are extraordinary. Yeah. I did watch the first season of not what it is, the Game of Thrones thing. They
the new one,
the new one, yeah, whatever they call it,
I saw the
House
first
of the
episode,
Dragon or whatever.
Right.
And I was disinterested by episode 2.
I was she made me further than me. I just didn't want to watch after like 30 minutes. Like, I'm not in the mood for it now.
Yeah, I couldn't get into it. Yeah. I think it was just because Game of Thrones left me with such a sour ending that I just didn't want to bother with it again.
I forgot you hated the ending.
Oh, the ending was terrible.
I forgot you hated the ending because I came on your radio show after that and we discussed it actually.
Yeah.
The
only thing I was right about was that Bran was going to be the king. I knew that Bran was going to get the king. That's what I knew. That's the only way that story could end. But it was just the way. It was just like Daenerys. All of a sudden, Daenerys just became like a complete nut job. Like, okay, she was kind of already teetering on that to begin with, but it just, I don't know. Like the people that were killed off were like, I would have preferred it if I would have preferred it had Cersei and Jaime lived. I think it would have been better. Like Cersei and Jaime didn't need to die.
The way they died was kind of weird too. In the
Rebel. Yeah, it was weird.
The whole thing was weird.
Comes crashing down on them. The dragons destroyed the whole thing. Whatever. I just didn't care for the ending of it. And then I tried watching House of the Dragon. I just wasn't into it.
That's the name of the show, House of the Dragon. Yeah. No, I didn't hate the ending, but I definitely see why people were so pissed about it. I can totally understand why. And the thing is too, also, you had all that time to land the plane. All that time to land the plane. They remember it took a whole calendar year off.
Yeah.
Just for that.
Yeah, no, I waited 12 months for that.
Yeah.
That was just disgusting. I know we're limited on time, but I do want to tell you a quick story before I go because
yes.
So I'm as part of my job now, I now cover high school and small college sports here in the Four Corners region. I recently had to cover I do previews for the high school football games that are coming up here on a Friday night. Uh-huh. And I wrote a preview about a game between two teams that were going into the fourth week of the season. They were each 0-3. One of the teams that was playing hadn't won a game since last year. They'd lost 8 games in a row. Their last victory had come against a school in Utah, the Utah School for the Deaf and Blind, which they won that game 56-14. Now, the only question I had was, how did you give up 14?
I was going to say that 14. That's not that possible.
Like,
is this real? Though? Is this for real?
Yes. The team, one of the two teams that was playing, their last victory came last year, and they gave up 4, and they won the game 56-14 over the Utah School for the Deaf and Blind. Which I only had one question: the guy who gave up the touchdowns, please tell me you made them walk home.
You can't make this shit up, dude.
You can't.
Like, how did you give up
14? And 14, I also have to believe that there was an extra point involved. Like someone kicked an extra point. How?
Jesus.
I there's no video of the game, so and if there was, who'd be watching it? So
Oh,
that was the story I had to tell you. That's the story I had to
love it. I'm glad you wait to the end of that. No, let me ask one more thing before we get out of here. I want to get this. We can say it. We're officially in election season now.
Oh God,
the new shit show, another shit show. We went through 2016, we went through 2020, and now 2024. Same shit. What's your thoughts on everything going on right now with the GOP and that Biden old, this and that? Wait, what's
they're all? I mean, everyone's old, right? I'll tell you who made a lot of sense to me, and who, I'd like to see this person, kind of, move on a little bit in the next few months would be Nikki Haley. I knew you were gonna say that. I do. I didn't mind what she had to say. It's unfortunate that the Republican Party has done basically everything in its power to piss off every woman on the planet. Otherwise, I think she'd be a viable candidate. I am fascinated at the current ongoings with Donald Trump as far as his legal problems are concerned. Yeah. Because he's the only one who doesn't really seem to understand that he's about to be found guilty on everything. He seems to be the only one that doesn't seem to get that. And whether or not he's found guilty, it's almost as if we're okay with that, And whether or not I agree with it or not, I mean, what he did was stupid. I mean, that's the thing he's most guilty of, is just being recklessly dumb.
Yeah. That's
and
sure.
Biden, look, I'm not a fan. I'm not, I'm not a fan of Biden. He's 1,000 years old, but I'm just waiting for the moment. I'm waiting for the moment when Mitch McConnell and Dianne Feinstein have to do like Jeopardy together or something, because watching them freeze up on stage would be hilarious to me more than anything else. But unfortunately, who wants to get, there was Mitt Romney announced he was not going to.
I saw that,
and he wants younger people to get into politics. If you're watching the current political landscape and you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, and you're politically motivated, what on earth would make you want to get into politics at this point?
That's true.
I mean, what on earth would make you even want to even consider getting into politics at this point? Because it's turned into such just a disaster.
Mm-hmm. I remember way back when we did a podcast, 2017. I think you had told me you left the Republican Party. You were Republican.
I left the Republican Party shortly before Trump's victory in 2016. I was a fan of John Kasich. I was a huge.
I was too. So was I.
And I thought that there was such a missed opportunity that he didn't get further in the Republican in the 2016 race.
Right.
But I still wrote him in in the general election in 2016.
Right. It's a mess.
But I left the Republican Party and I just became an independent. I didn't become a Democrat. I just became an independent, and I'm just gonna see what happens.
You basically did what I did. I did it 8 years earlier. I was a Republican until 2008, and I left in 2008. Did not think that it would get this far.
No,
did not see this coming.
No one imagined the place we'd be in right now. No one could have possibly imagined that. But it is what it is, and I've learned to just sort of I live in an area now where most of the people that my in-laws are kind of further on the right wing side of things than I am.
Yeah.
So I try to balance that out a little bit, and
they love Trump.
What's that?
They love Trump.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and I don't see it.
As bad as he is, I think the DeSantis is worse.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think there's people out there that are far worse, but I mean, thank God I don't have to vote for them.
And I got to deal with him in the state, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And here's the worst part too. And here's the worst part about DeSantis too. There was a point where I praised him. How we handled COVID here in Florida, I praised him at one point, and there was a point where I did consider voting for re-election for him for the governor.
It's funny because for all the nonsense, the one thing that Trump did right was COVID. Mm-hmm. It was the one the getting the vaccines out as quick as we did.
Yes, he doesn't get enough credit for that. Actually,
he does not, and he should, because history will say, hopefully, that it was Trump's administration that made sure the vaccines got out much quicker than they ever would have under any other administration. And that's the one thing he won't get credit for, but he should.
But you know why though? Because of the fact that the way he handled it beforehand, changed everything else.
Oh yeah, but I mean, the history books should accurately reflect that if it wasn't, because I don't know of any other administration that would have gotten it out there as quick as he did. So that's the one. Right. I will give him all the due credit in the world for that one.
Another shit show, 2024. But you know what's funny though?
Welcome to the shit show.
And yet I'm still fascinated by it all. I still follow all the politics stuff. I still read all the stuff. I still watch all the shows I'm interested in.
Oh yeah. I
love it. I love it. Every minute.
Because that's your reality TV.
Yeah, it really is.
It is.
Really, no, you say it. You joke, but really is that reality TV now.
That's your reality. That's your 90-day fiance.
And that's where we're ending right there, Steve. As always, thanks for coming to the podcast. You want to plug anything?
Yeah, you can check out my paper's website. We're a new publication. We've been on the market now for about 5 months. It's called the Tri-City Record, and you can log on to the website at Tri-City Record NM for New Mexico. Yep. TriCityRecordNM.com. I am no longer on Twitter, X, whatever they're calling itself.
Oh, you are gone. You are gone.
I'm gone. Yeah. I mean, I think I've still got an old account, whatever, but I don't actively post to it anymore because it's crazy. But you can follow me on Facebook at Sports with Steve Bortstein. That still exists. That's on Facebook. You can follow me there and log on to the website at tricityrecordnm.com.
Yeah, you still try to do some, even if you can, a couple podcasts are in there. I mean, your voice is still needed, man. You know,
I know. Well,
you know,
but and that's why I enjoy these appearances with you. It's why I enjoy the occasional baseball talk with Jordan over on his radio station in Utah. He does a great job over there, and God bless him, because there's only a few voices on radio. You're included in that in podcast world. There's only a few voices that I would honor, that I would consider it an honor to be a part of, and so I appreciate the. What is it now? Hour and 20 minutes that we are now approaching here.
Well, you know what? It won't be another 3 years. I promise this time. We'll make sure that you in much sooner than that. I appreciate that's way too long. Way too long, brother.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.